everybody. Now we're going to the next workshop number 2, Water Landscapes, International Experiences. And I hope you really, it was a delicious lunch we've been served, so I really hope that you will stay awake, because now we will have a lot of interesting local experiences, local projects and so on that you need to listen to. Landscape is not a matter for individual states alone, as Madame de Champon said in the first speech this morning. It also needs to be considered in the international policies and programs, and that is what we are going to listen to soon. Trans-frontier cooperation is encouraged at local and regional level, and where necessary can pave the way for the preparation and implementation of joint landscape programs. So now we will have presentations of some local examples from Georgia, Flanders, Poland, Netherlands, Finland, Croatia, and Sweden. And we will also listen to how to take into account water in landscape policies and plans. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Bonsoir, je suis Anestis Gourgiotis de la délégation de la Grèce. Je voudrais remercier tout d'abord le Conseil de l'Europe et surtout Maguelone de Jampons de cette excellente initiative encore une fois, et puis surtout la délégation de l'Espagne qui nous accueille dans ce pays merveilleux. Le paysage est de plus en plus perçu comme une ressource, on l'a bien vu dans la session précédente, j'espère qu'on va le voir dans la session qui suit. À ce titre, il est nécessaire de trouver des instruments juridiques et politiques ou économiques susceptibles de gérer cette ressource paysagère, surtout sur le long terme. L'eau, un des éléments fondamentaux de paysage actuel et passé, présenté sous différentes formes, les fleuves, les rivières, on l'a bien vu par les présentations précédentes, et à des échelles spatiales variées, elle constitue un atout malgré qu'elle génère des contraintes. Les liens de l'eau avec l'évolution des paysages sont multiples, tout comme les usages et les représentations qui en découlent. Les paysages des cours d'eau, des littoraux et des zones humides se situent souvent entre des enjeux de développement multiples et parfois contradictoires. Donc, il y a des questions qui apparaissent. Certaines questions, ils ont été bien répondues par la session précédente. Je pense que la session qui suit va répondre à d'autres questions. Quelques questions qui me viennent à l'esprit, c'est comment concilier, les concilier pour développer des projets de territoires cohérents. Quelles sont les incidences de la mise en place des nouvelles politiques comme celle de la trame verte et bleue ou des politiques de gestion des risques d'inondation sur ces paysages? Quel bilan peut-on dresser des politiques publiques déjà en œuvre? On a eu des bons exemples sur le projet de Séville à la session précédente. Quels sont les acteurs mobilisés? Quelle place est accordée aux représentations habitantes afin d'appréhender ces paysages contemporains? Quelles méthodes sont mobilisées? Comment intégrer les pratiques et les usages des différents acteurs? J'espère et je souhaite que cette session qui suit va éclairer ces problématiques. Je vous remercie.
Yeah, and now we will have a presentation from Georgia's landscape and hydroelectric resources, challenges and opportunities from Mrs. Marina Tomashvili. Please.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Dear colleagues, let me present you the topic, Georgia's landscape. My presentation. Excuse me. Let me present you the topic, Georgia's landscapes and hydroelectric resources, challenges and opportunities. Georgia is rich with water resources, which is the main component of natural wealth of the country. With the hydropower potential, rivers, lakes, reservoirs, glaciers, underground water, swamps, the country takes one of the best places in the world. There are 26,000 rivers and 860 lakes in Georgia. Part of the rivers belongs to the Black Sea Basin, the other part to the Caspian Sea Basin. There are 44 reservoirs currently, there are 44 water reservoirs currently operating in Georgia. Reservoirs of Western Georgia are mainly for energy use, and most of the water reserves in the East Georgia are used for irrigation. The use of hydropower potential of the country is one of the main strategic directions of economic development of Georgia. The country currently operates up to 70 hydropower plants. At present, construction of new hydropower plants is underway in different regions of Georgia. It should be noted that the construction of water reservoirs and hydropower plants changes the natural environment. Part of the gorge are covering with water, new areas of landslide processes are appearing, the air and soil humidity increases, the river flow regime is being changed, and etc. As a result, the landscape is being changed. In some cases, it's necessary to resettle people to another place, which in turn leads to significant changes in the natural and social environment. To illustrate the landscape protection issues, we have identified 3 examples of the changes of water landscapes caused by the constructions of water reservoirs and hydropower plants. The first, the issue of ensuring the protection of the already modified landscape by the construction of water reservoirs and hydropower plants. The second, current problematic processes, people protesting on the landscape changes due to the construction of new dams and hydropower plants. The third, the use of water reservoirs and hydropower plants by granting additional functions that can be a mechanism for increasing the development of potential of the region and maybe some mechanism for protection of the landscape from additional alterations. The issues of the protection of the already modified landscape by constructions of water reservoirs and hydropower plants in the previous period will be discussed in the context of the landscape of Mtskheta World Heritage Monument. In the Aragwe Basin, on the right bank of Aragwe River, the construction of Jin Valley Hydro Complex has started in 1971. 2 more hydro complexes were constructed in Aragwe Basin, Roshka and Bisaktsieli. Construction of hydro complexes has caused landscape changes. One of the modified landscapes is located in the area of historical monuments of Mtskheta. One part of the Aragwe coast was turned into swamp in this place. As a result of the rehabilitation works carried out, the land between Svetitsko Monastery and the river Aragwe originated. It has naturally become green and has become a part of the historic landscape. It is noteworthy that since 1994, the historical monument on Mtskheta is in the World Heritage List. The surrounding environment is an integral component of the monument. Since 2005, the development of the territory and the new constructions has started without taking into consideration the interests of the buffer zone of the monument. As a result, Mtskheta site was inscribed to the list of World Heritage in Danger. In 2016, it was returned in the main list, taking into consideration a number of conditions, including the need to develop relevant measures for environmental protection of the historical monuments of Mtskheta in order to protect and to prevent further degradation of landscape of the World Heritage Site. In 2018, by the order of the government, the adjusted boundaries of the landscape protection zones was developed within the framework of the correction project of Ante Cultural Heritage General Protection Zones, which is currently at the review stage. One of the main aims of these projects is to protect the landscape of the River Agua coast from undesirable changes. Thus, the protection of the landscape of the River Agua coast from undesirable changes now has the highest level of actuality, as it constitutes an integral component of the World Heritage Site. The second example concerns the current processes when people protest the environmental landscape changes regarding constructions of new dams and hydropower plants. The construction of the Neskra hydropower plant in Svaneti region caused discontent of the population. Neskra hydropower plant is one of those 35 power plants which is planned to be constructed in Upper Svaneti region of Georgia. Svaneti region is distinguished by its unique landscape, medieval villages, and residential towers. Changes of the landscape were painfully perceived by the population. The explanations made regarding economic benefits of the hydropower plant had not had big impact. The population firmly stated no Neskra dam. As a result, construction of this hydropower plant is suspended at this stage. Ongoing constructions of new hydropower plants in other regions of Georgia are undertaken against the backdrop of the rigid protest of the people. The issues regarding the changes of the landscape of rivers is very important to the international society. International Conference River Gathering Georgia 2017 responded to the movements against constructions of hydropower plants. Representatives from different countries participated in the conference, including North and South America, Europe, the Balkans, Southeast Asia, the Mediterranean, and the Caucasus countries. The goal of the conference was to maintain healthy rivers, which is the best way to fight climate changes. The third example is illustration that in some cases the protection of water landscape from further changes can be achieved by providing additional functions for existing hydroelectric complexes. Construction of Nguri hydropower plant began in 1061. Nguri hydropower plant and its dam is in the top 5 world's highest arch dam. This complex, as the object of the industrial heritage, was granted the status of national category by the government of Georgia in 2015. The project Nguri Dam, most attractive industrial site and touristic spot, was elaborated and is now at review stage. The project's aim to provide additional functions to the Nguri hydropower plant and hydropower dam by developing a museum area and a tourist site. It is also possible to arrange a scientific center that will help young people get interested with the fields of engineering, to arrange various types of attractions on the site, and etc. Thus, the protection of water landscape from further changes can be achieved by providing additional functions for existing hydropower plant complexes. Finally, it should be noted that there are more questions about the protections of water landscapes than the answers. Therefore, sharing international experience on this particular topic is very important, and it is appreciative that our workshop is dedicated to these issues. Thank you for your attention.
Merci Marina. Et maintenant, je voudrais appeler le chef de projet de l'Agence flamande des terres de la Belgique, Madame Selling, qui va nous parler des water landscape, bien sûr.
Okay. So my name is Lisbeth Gelling and I work for the Flemish Land Agency. perhaps some words on that government agency. We are committed to develop resilient open spaces, and we try to enable our countryside and open space to better endure for urbanization, fragmentation, and climate change. So we do this by projects, landscape projects, nature projects, and also working together with people. And for the past 3 years, we have built up an open space platform. Our working area is the open space in Flanders, and I must say a little word for that, because open space in Flanders is a bit difficult. It is open space under severe threat. It is open space that you might know as being Flanders as big city. It would like Flanders and Belgium is a little country and is very densely built. We have a very rich agriculture, and therefore our open space is in danger. I'll give you some numbers for that. Our surface is about 13,522 kilometers, and we have a dense population. If you bring this in comparison with, for example, Spain and the rest of Europe. And if you see a map of Flanders, we have water landscapes that are in a highly urbanized area and with a very intensive agriculture. And for the past 3 years, our open space platform has united the expertise and creativity of diverse actions and sectors in Flanders around that common interest, namely the open space. Our open space and urbanization are both fundamental components of one large cohesive ecosystem, and they are interdependent, so one cannot exist without the other. And you can see on the map our major streams. We have only 3 in Flanders, the IJssel, the Maas, and the river Scheldt. And around it is very much housing and agriculture. But everyone is a co-owner of the open space. So we have a lot of current and usual means of efficient spatial planning in Flanders. For example, land use plans, protection of the landscape, nature reserves, even one national park. We have a lot of legislation and also different measures and projects to deal with the pressures on our open spaces and water landscapes. But we want to have a new approach, because we saw that we didn't reach the goals that are set out by our own government and by Europe. And when everyone is a co-owner of that open space, we have all worked together to achieve those goals. So we discovered for the 25th anniversary of the Flemish Land Agency some future hypes of future processes that are important for our region. And this is urban fringes, to work on that, on our new landscapes that are highly industrialized, on our landscapes for food. How can we grow agriculture? How can we grow vegetables and still have a landscape that is beautiful? About our ambitious landscapes, our protected landscapes, our cultural landscapes, about landscape infrastructure, the green-blue traces, and about water landscape. And water landscape is about what I want to tell you, because there's a gap between the goals and the results on the ground. We face many global changes, including the areas of climate, environment, water management, and energy, and we want to strive for that goals that we have set, but we won't reach them unless we do involve a lot of people. And that's also the message today in the streets of Belgium, where our younger people are demonstrating to have a better climate. They want answers from us now, and although we know we can't give them immediately, we know there is a big deal to do. And cooperation is the way we want to go, not only on the European level, working together with different countries, but also on local and provincial levels, And also with the man on the street, has been said before, we must go to our farmers, we must go to our citizens to make together our plans. So the last 2 years, even in Belgium, climate change has been gone very fast. In Belgium, we have 2 very dry summers, and our water supplies nowadays are even enough. It's winter now, it should be raining in Flanders. Even our water supplies are not enough at this time of the year to give growth to our vegetables in the summer. So there is a big urgency to act now. And we brought together a Flemish team for this program that we call Water Landscape, to think together out what we have to do to make it stronger and make it quicker, the approach that we want to have. And this team will support our actors in the field with knowledge and instruments. So we have brought together universities, knowledge from the scientists, and all the instruments that we have of our government level with the actors on the terrain that must act with us. Our minister did agree to fund the program. You can see her here with a broken arm. And our call for proposals gave us 30 initiatives in the field. And this call was to say, well, people, when you want to bring together your ideas on water management, on land use planning, and on agriculture, we can make it together the goals that we want to achieve. Now we have 14 selected areas in Flanders that will go immediately from a start, from the improvement of today. And in those 14 areas, people will work together with the government to achieve the goals in those valleys and different landscapes. So local partners and farmers will come together around the table to find solutions. And there have been 4 days of reflections. First day for explanation of the program, second day models for solutions and involvement, third day measures and instruments, and a fourth day of synthesis. And now we have a report with that measures, and the local partners will go for a start for those programs. In those 14 pilot areas, we will go in to test different approaches for water management together with farmers. And those themes are set here on the slide. How can we provide water in intensively used landscapes during the dry periods, a problem that we are facing now and never had before? How can we solve problems with water pollution, an ongoing problem in a very intensively agricultural area? And how can we use the landscape as a smart solution for water captation in the prevention of floods and droughts? We are searching for new solutions and learning and wanting to learn with you in an international context what we have to do. And so we are involved in several European projects like Water Project, Water Protect, and Co-Adapt around water pollution solvents. So our plans are that we are going to test different solutions in our 14 pilot areas, that we want to learn about our local knowledge, because the people on the terrain know very well how the water management functions, and that we want to combine this with the goals of the government. We want to define the best solutions to spread out in Flanders and also in Europe. And other learning points are very welcome. The funds are foreseen for local initiatives with local farmers and local people around those 3 main goals. We want to have quick wins, and we want to have long-term projects for 10 years. The program is also a learning platform for government and the local actors. So I want to explain a bit around the 3 words, because for us it's a bit of another meaning. Water landscape has land planning to enable farming in a climate-robust manner. We have also land planning to develop a climate-proof Flanders, and also land planning to achieve a high-quality climate-robust landscape. because landschap is landscape in our language, and landbouw means agriculture. The ambition is really to search for win-win solutions, and I want to end with the relationship between the objective of water landscape and the core qualities of environmental quality. In recent, we have defined a couple of qualities for the main environmental quality, that is a robust water system, sustainable food production, and the quality of the landscape. And you can see that those three are vertically the same as the objective of water landscape. But we have also two main goals that are the open space is robust and resilient, and a good environmental quality. And we have some others, the three below, that also can be put together, that goes from social cohesion, the basic facilities nearby, and also the accessibility of the environment for people. Those three can be annexed into the other qualities of the landscape. I have now some examples of what we are doing, some beautiful plans to end for. This is interesting. It's the reuse of water from one farmer who grows potatoes to another farmer who grows tomatoes. And even the water from the nearby industrial plants will be reused to foresee the tomato. You can see that it's very different regions, highly urbanized or not. And I want to stop with the conclusion. It's not only the climate that is changing, but also we have to change. Climate change forces us to act fast, to give solutions fast, to be more creative in our solutions, and to work together with all stakeholders. Thank you for your attention. And for those who couldn't understand my English, I have some reports here. There are very little, only 15, because I was not able to bring them all, but you can read it.
Okay. So, and now we're welcoming the next speaker, Monsieur Julien Trancy and Monsieur Gilles de Beaulieu. And they are talking about taking into account water in landscape policies and plans.
Merci, bonjour à tous. D'abord, comme tous les précédents participants, je veux commencer par remercier en mon nom et en celui de Gilles tous les organisateurs de ces ateliers pour la qualité de l'accueil ici à Séville, mais aussi et surtout pour ce choix de sujet qui nous invite à faire un lien entre la question de l'eau et celle de la citoyenneté par le biais du paysage. Et pour illustrer la pertinence de ce lien, avant d'évoquer l'expérience française, et notamment les plans de paysage, je voudrais vous inviter à un petit détour par les rizières de Bali, inscrites au patrimoine mondial de l'humanité en tant que paysage culturel. Donc c'est une notion qui a fait beaucoup discuter ce matin, mais le développement qui va suivre vous montre qu'on peut, je pense, développer une vision holistique du paysage à travers cette notion. Parce que ce qui a fait l'objet d'une forme de reconnaissance à travers cette inscription, ce n'est pas uniquement une composition esthétique, c'est surtout, avant tout, d'abord, une forme d'organisation sociale qui vise à répartir équitablement la ressource en eau, avec une logique de solidarité entre les parcelles qui sont situées en hauteur et celles qui sont situées en contrebas, grâce à une gestion coopérative de tout un système de canaux, de barrages, appelé système des sous-bacs. Donc finalement, vous avez ici le descriptif précis de ce système qui vous montre que finalement, on a une forme d'organisation sociale qui se traduit concrètement et visiblement dans une organisation spatiale. Et c'est cette combinaison qui finit par former un paysage singulier. Alors si j'ai pris pour commencer cet exemple lointain, c'est peut-être parce que dans nos sociétés occidentales contemporaines, et en France en l'occurrence, ce lien est aujourd'hui un peu moins direct, en tout cas moins évident, moins immédiatement perceptible. Et je vous ai mis sur cette diapositive un extrait d'un article signé d'un paysagiste français. C'est un article qui ne traite pas directement de la question de l'eau, mais il se trouve que pour illustrer son propos, son auteur évoque le fait que nous ne sommes plus capables aujourd'hui, pour la plupart d'entre nous, de dire précisément d'où vient l'eau que nous buvons au quotidien. Et ce paysagiste considère qu'il y voit là une forme de transformation radicale de notre rapport au monde, qui a à voir, je le cite, avec le paysage, avec la question des paysages et de leur évolution. Et si cette question a à voir avec le paysage, ça veut dire aussi, dit autrement, que l'approche paysagère peut nous aider à redonner du sens à tout ça, peut nous aider à renouer des liens entre une ressource, des ressources, un territoire et un collectif, une communauté de destin. Alors en France, ça peut passer par les atlas de paysages, qui œuvrent, entre autres choses, à caractériser la place de l'eau dans les structures paysagères, qui étudient aussi les perceptions qu'on peut en avoir, ce qui peut permettre de mettre en évidence des écarts pour ensuite travailler à les réduire, ces écarts. Ça peut passer aussi par l'observation photographique du paysage dans le temps long, qui permet de mettre en évidence soit des permanences, soit au contraire des phénomènes d'apparition ou de disparition de l'élément aquatique dans notre environnement immédiat. Et puis ça passe, en tout cas on a choisi pour la deuxième partie de notre intervention de mettre l'accent sur les plans de paysage qui mobilisent aussi de la connaissance, de l'observation, de l'analyse au service d'une démarche de projet de territoire global, intégrateur. Et pour vous en parler, je laisse la parole à mon collègue Gilles.
Alors, effectivement, comme l'a dit Julien, aborder la question de la ressource à un moment un petit peu critique, puisque la France connaît aussi une difficulté dans la gestion de l'eau. C'est intéressant de partir de là pour essayer d'avoir une approche et une méthode de construction d'un projet de territoire global. Et pour illustrer cette démarche, qui est celle des plans de paysage, je vous ai mis cette première slide qui vous propose un peu un résumé sur un mode graphique, méthodologique du plan de paysage. C'est partir d'un problème, c'est-à-dire la question de l'eau, qui souvent est une question assez difficile, parce qu'on s'aperçoit que c'est une ressource qui fait défaut aujourd'hui, amène à remonter un peu toutes les thématiques du territoire, c'est-à-dire la géologie, l'histoire, l'agriculture, l'urbanisme. Et voilà comment finalement, à travers une question très précise, dont on pourrait penser que finalement elle est quand même assez réduite par rapport à l'ensemble des enjeux de paysage, on arrive à remonter à peu près à toutes les causes profondes des problèmes qui se posent sur les territoires. J'insiste sur ce point parce que dans les plans de paysage, pendant longtemps, la France a essayé de partir d'une analyse globale et très théorique du paysage pour arriver à une approche opérationnelle. Et c'est une démarche qui finalement ne fonctionne pas. Et si elle ne fonctionne pas, c'est parce qu'elle ne rejoint pas une préoccupation des élus locaux qui sont en charge de l'aménagement du territoire et que du coup on n'intéresse pas, tout simplement. C'est aussi clair que ça. Donc l'idée maintenant, c'est plutôt de partir d'un problème et de remonter progressivement aux sources. Alors pour ça, je vais vous présenter deux exemples de plans de paysage avec deux situations très différentes. La première, c'est celle de Dunkerque, où le problème initial sur la question de l'eau, c'est tout simplement lié à un risque de submersion. Dunkerque est une ville du nord de la France qui en fait est construite sur des polders, ce qu'ils avaient complètement oublié, et qui se rappelle assez cruellement aujourd'hui. Et donc pour remonter et essayer de régler ce problème de risque de submersion, ils ont dû se rappeler déjà leur histoire, c'est-à-dire redécouvrir, comme je le disais à l'instant, qu'ils sont sur un polder, qui sont dans des zones inondables et que ce sont des zones hautement risquées. Ça veut dire qu'ils ont dû aussi faire appel à la géologie la géologie qui montre que le trait de côte, eh bien, c'est quelquefois des réalités très simples. C'est un massif dunaire avec tout ce que ça a de fragilité face à des événements de plus en plus climatiques, de plus en plus déchaînés. Et c'est des terrains sédimentaires inondables en arrière du territoire. Donc un territoire qui est très mouvant finalement. Si on s'intéresse ensuite aux infrastructures, ils se sont rendus compte que cette agglomération de Dunkerque, elle a été développée sur un ensemble de digues et de canaux qui sont des infrastructures extrêmement importantes. Et malgré la taille de ces infrastructures qui étaient complètement oubliées, aussi paradoxal que cela puisse paraître. Et oubliées parce qu'il y avait eu un urbanisme qui a été développé, qui n'était pas du tout respectueux de ces structures. Et donc dans la petite photo que je vous montre, c'est justement la manière dont ils ont reconsidéré leur urbanisme en intégrant la défense de mer. Là, c'est une digue de front de mer, même si ça ne se voit pas beaucoup, qui a été complètement rénovée et dans lequel ils ont intégré toutes les fonctionnalités d'une promenade de front de mer qui donne une valeur particulière à cette ville de Dunkerque et qui contribue aussi à la qualité urbaine de la ville. Et ils ont été obligés aussi de reconsidérer toute la question de l'agriculture parce que ce sont les agriculteurs qui gèrent tous les réseaux hydrauliques, question qui était dangereusement en disparition puisque l'agriculture a la caractéristique d'être en pleine ville et que les agriculteurs étaient progressivement chassés du milieu urbain à cause de la valeur évidemment du terrain à bâtir alors qu'un terrain agricole ne vaut rien. Donc aujourd'hui, toute la question c'est de maintenir l'agriculture en milieu urbain pour qu'ils puissent continuer à faire la gestion fine du territoire qui est extrêmement complexe et contribuer à maintenir Dunkerque, évidemment, en dehors du danger de submersion. Le deuxième exemple, c'est l'exemple de Bordeaux, alors qui est à beaucoup plus grande échelle, puisqu'on a une échelle d'intercommunalité, où la question s'est posée d'abord sous l'angle des zones humides. Et là, sous cet angle-là, il a fallu revoir toute la question de la topographie, la question de la pédologie. Il a fallu aborder la question de l'histoire pour voir comment avaient évolué les choses, notamment en matière de couverts forestiers. En l'occurrence, sur l'image que je vous ai montrée, on voit une forêt, c'était des forêts de feuillus. Maintenant, c'est des forêts de pins qui sont extrêmement consommateurs d'eau et qui détruisent les milieux humides. Et il a fallu revoir, bien sûr, la question de l'urbanisme qui vient dangereusement couper tous les réseaux hydrographiques. Donc là, ils ont construit un seuil de connaissances pluridisciplinaire extrêmement intéressante qui sont bien loin dans l'échelle d'un projet opérationnel qui se situe plus au niveau local pur. Et tout l'intérêt de cette démarche, ça a été de faire cette articulation, c'est-à-dire qu'à partir du diagnostic, ils ont pu définir les zones où il y avait des problèmes particuliers à régler et ça permet de faire un relais maintenant sur des zones de projet au niveau local. Donc c'est quand même intéressant de voir comment on arrive à articuler une très grande échelle, qui est celle d'un bassin versant qui est immense, avec une échelle opérationnelle qui est au contraire beaucoup plus réduite dans sa portée. Ça permet d'avoir une meilleure pertinence des politiques publiques et des zones d'intervention prioritaires. Donc que peut-on retenir de tout ça ? C'est que pour décider et prendre des décisions d'aménagement cohérents, il faut comprendre le territoire. C'est peut-être une évidence, mais elle n'est pas acquise. Donc la connaissance du territoire, c'est le premier socle. Cette connaissance, elle ne doit pas être théorique, c'est-à-dire que, et c'est la question de la concertation, il faut effectivement qu'au niveau de chaque citoyen, il y ait une compréhension des conséquences des comportements individuels sur l'ensemble de l'environnement et du fonctionnement là, hydraulique en l'occurrence, du territoire. Et au niveau des élus, il faut qu'ils soient à même, sur la base d'une connaissance fine du territoire, d'arriver à comprendre toutes les conséquences positives ou négatives qu'entraîne une décision pour avoir des politiques publiques qui soient plus opérationnelles. Donc finalement, l'objectif des plans de paysage, c'est apprendre. Apprendre en captant l'attention, comme je le disais, par une question qui, même ciblée, répond à une préoccupation à un instant donné des élus locaux et qui vont donner l'intérêt et l'accroche qui va permettre de travailler avec eux. Ensuite, c'est à partir de l'analyse des conséquences et de la connaissance du territoire, c'est mettre en relation les choses, élargir le champ de compréhension que les élus ont pour arriver à leur donner une vision globale du paysage. Et finalement, c'est le processus pédagogique qui permet d'en arriver à cette situation qui a évidemment pour but d'augmenter la qualité des politiques publiques et de les rendre intelligentes, tout simplement, et beaucoup plus efficaces. Donc finalement, on en arrive à ça, et le plan de paysage, c'est presque autant de la pédagogie qu'une politique qui est une politique opérationnelle au sens de l'action. Et je finirai juste pour quand même une note, un résultat intéressant qui est Dunkerque en l'occurrence, dont je vous ai parlé tout à l'heure. Voilà, sur la slide de gauche, vous avez un canal qui avait été partiellement, quand je disais qu'ils oubliaient l'existence des canaux, voilà ce que ça donnait, c'est-à-dire qu'ils en avaient profité pour voir des voies express dessus, des voies de communication qui coupaient d'ailleurs le tissu urbain, qu'ils étaient prêts à boucher en créant un risque de submersion accrue. Et à l'issue de la démarche de plan de paysage, de cette démarche pédagogique, ils ont compris que dans une seule opération de réhabilitation, ils pouvaient non seulement éliminer le risque de submersion en rétablissant la fonction hydraulique, qui pouvait en faire un atout en matière de développement urbain pour avoir un véritable cadre de vie qui soit source d'aménité et qui donne une identité à leur territoire qui est très positive, et qui pouvait aussi travailler sur des questions qui sont des questions de circulation avec des développements de voies vertes, alors que jusqu'à présent, c'était au contraire que du développement automobile. Donc je dirais que l'objectif pour conclure des plans de paysage, c'est évidemment cette question. Alors aujourd'hui, c'était la thématique de l'eau, mais ici, vous voyez toutes les thématiques qui sont à l'œuvre dans les plans de paysage, qui sont très nombreuses et qui permettent à un moment ou à un autre d'avoir cette construction globale du territoire sans laquelle vraiment il n'y a pas de politique qualitative et intelligente, et qui permet d'associer aussi chacun à son niveau, élus, individus, en leur responsabilisant, et la responsabilité est extrêmement importante, et en leur redonnant aussi ce qui est indispensable pour une politique de qualité, c'est la fierté d'être soi-même et la fierté de son territoire. Et j'insiste sur ce point parce qu'on a beaucoup parlé en France de la notion de paysage ordinaire qui est absolument dévastatrice et qui introduit finalement l'idée qu'on peut faire n'importe quoi parce que les choses n'ont pas de valeur. Donc c'est vraiment quelque chose contre lequel il faut lutter à tout prix. La fierté et l'estime de soi sont à la base de tout. Merci.
Merci à la France. Je retiens l'idée de l'identité, en fait, si j'ai bien compris. Et nous allons passer au paysage de l'eau en Pologne. J'invite Madame Kozewska, qui est à la Direction générale de la protection de l'environnement en Pologne.
Okay, dear colleagues, let me present you a project that, comparing to the previous presentation, is like a detail in a landscape, but I hope detail which sometimes is very important. And today, with the discussion of the water landscape, I would like to present a project in which water in landscape was both like baseline and further, it was inspiration and baseline for further activities. This project has been implemented by the Landscape Park Complex of West Pomeranian Voivodeship, and all these materials and photos in this presentation was used by thanks to the courtesy of this institution. So, Landscape Park in Poland, they were established primarily in 80s and 90s of the 20th century, and they constitute one of the forms of nature and landscape protection in Poland. Right now, there is almost 124 landscape parks in Poland, and which constitute like 80% of country area. Today, we are focused on landscape park in West Pomeranian Voivodeship, which consists 6 landscape parks, and they are with total area of almost 120,000 hectares. Today, we are focused on the Cedyński landscape park. But let's take a short glimpse how looks like the landscape in this West Pomeranian Voivodeship. These are like 3 examples what you could see if you visit this area. But today's hero is the Siekierki Norwich Bridge. This is the longest bridge on the Odra River. It's situated about 77 kilometers from Szczecin and about 66 kilometers from Berlin. Why this bridge is so important? Because it's at the same time it has great symbolic value in the terms of policy and history, and at the same time is a witness of tragic history of First and Second World War. The last scheduled train crossed this bridge in 1945. Nowadays, this bridge, as you can see in the photo, its length reach like 660 meters, two spans 350 meters each, one of the German side and the other one on the Polish side. Both of them are connected with 100 meters mineral island. But let's take a few words about the history of the bridge. The beginnings of the bridge connecting in this place between Siekierki and Neurudnitz date back to the 50s of the 18th century. Wooden bridge constructed in these places, they failed to measure up the natural conditions and were destroyed by the high levels and ice drifts. The bridge, replaced with brick and stone support with the steel span, was constructed at the end of the 19th century. Increasing traffic caused that there was two bridges, rail and road one. In the 1945, the bridge was blown up by the retreating German army, and after its rebuilding like 10 years later, the bridge has never been exploded. Not a single train was crossed, and only the reconstruction was focused only on the train bridge. But at the same time, it was still maintained and renovated as a reserve crossing because of the defense and military purpose. Nowadays, the bridge spans over the extremely valuable natural wetlands of the Odra River and in the Cedyński Landscape Park. Today, this bridge is like a symbol of joint European history and nature and reconciliation between Poland and Germany. As well, it's an inspiration for Polish and German cooperation, both for current and future generation. But it's only not the bridge is so important, but it itself surrounding. This bridge is surrounded by the old riverbed of Odra, called the Kostrzynieckie Rozlewisko, Kostrzynieckie wetlands. It's a form of larger transborder natural complex situated along the river Odra, and known as unique Lower Odra Valley. This area consists of few forms of nature and landscape protection, like Lower Odra Valley Landscape Park, Cedyński Landscape Park, and Warta Estuary Landscape Park, as well as German National Park of Odra Valley. And now you may see, like this is the photo of the unique lower, thanks to the courtesy of unique Lower Odra Valley. With a view to natural values, this is the last such large area in Europe where natural fluctuation of the rivers are not artificially regulated, and at the same time humans' activities are primarily of extensive nature. That's why it's so important to provide the tourists the access to the bridge. In this situation, since 2004, Poland and Germany have cooperated and make an effort to revitalization the bridge in the form of pedestrian or bicycle road rather than a railway connection. This project was main topic of the conference in 2015. Materials and conclusion collected during this conference formed the basis for the further activities taken by the Landscape Park Complex in cooperation with the German Barnim-Oder-Buch office. In 2015, the application to the Interreg cooperation program was submitted. One year later, the committee decided on co-financing the project with the total cost amounts about 3.6 million euro. And the following projects tasks will be implemented during this project, like adaptation of the bridge as the pedestrian and bicycle path with a view platform, active protection of eagle owl by installation of artificial breeding platforms, workshop for Polish and German communities to demonstrate them the opportunities of using the bridge as a tourist attraction, advertising, film and media spots as a promotion of the project, and closing conference. And let's see like some few details of this project. From the bridge, there are like unique views of the Odra River and its and wetlands, and the bridge itself is a form of viewing terrace of total length of 600 meters. And let's get closer. To attract more tourists, a two-story viewing platform over the bridge span will be constructed to enable viewing the whole bridge as a monument of the technique. When we move a little farther, the bridge will be also equipped in a tourist and education infrastructure. At the end, the embankment state border will act as a symbolic common leisure and recreation space. The expected results of the project are: the bridge will act as a transborder pedestrian and bicycle path. The bridge will fill the gap in the communication system, enable more frequent crossing of the Odra River in both directions. The bridge also will be a part of systematic bicycle roads of the West Pomeranian Voivodeship. It will combine, like in this place, it will combine the new developed Trasa Pojezierna Lake Road with the system of German and international bicycles, and we hope it will encourage local tourists in the German and Polish communities. And for the last and not least, we hope that in a few years it will replace this photo with the new one where will be much more people and users of this bridge. Thank you so much.
And now we are welcoming Mr. Peter Roos, Landscape Project Manager in the Netherlands. Please.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Peter Roos. I'm from the Ministry of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality. I made this presentation together with a colleague of mine. Her name is Ellen Veningoor, and she works for the Ministry of Culture, Agriculture, Heritage Agency. So it's a combined presentation. She's not here today, but it gives an example of how we work together with the two ministries on this subject. And the subject of today by my presentation is using cultural heritage and historical analysis for current and future landscape, energy and water-related issues in the Netherlands. The Netherlands is a typical country in our long history that we have to battle against water. We have too much water. We've seen a lot of presentations today where there's less water, but we have too much. Even the water was used as a defense system, and we have to meet water challenges in our time. Well, if you turn the map of Europe the other way around, you see that the Netherlands and the North Sea, all the big rivers, the Meuse River, the Rhine River, is ending up in the Netherlands. So all the rainwater, the most water in Europe is coming to the Netherlands. So that's the explanation why the water is our biggest enemy. Here it's a famous story. The Netherlands is below sea level, especially in the western part. Again, the water is our enemy. So how to deal with this new enemy in these days? In the past, a lot of disasters. The flooding of 1421, St. Elizabeth flood is a famous one. The damage is still visible today with the National Park, the Biesbos. But again, today, rain, new water is coming. We have a lot of policy on how to deal with this water. We use dike systems already for 1,000 years. Of course, we have new implementation infrastructures, projects like dikes, large hydraulic locks, and delta works. The delta works, I think, are famous in Zealand. This is a good example of the River Waal near Nijmegen, where we, if you can point, where we make a new river, because there was too much water going this direction to the city of Nijmegen, too much danger, so we made a new river. So the water goes now in two directions, so to say. But we also use artificial water systems for climate adaptations let's say 19th century parks. So we use every possibility for water, to catch water. And also we use defense waterline structures for climate adaptation. And like for this last one, I have an example. It's the case of the Diefdijk. It's part of the new Dutch waterline, which was a 19th century defense line. This Diefdijk was also a dike which is 1,000 years old, protecting the western part of the Netherlands, which is the economic heartland of the Netherlands. This Diefdijk, here it is. It's a small line, of course, because it's a dike with a road on it. This is it. You see, it was a bit old, but part of this dike was this road, and this road is the road from Amsterdam to Paris. So one of the main infrastructure connections in Europe. And when we have troubles with water, the road can be closed with a sluice. This was the situation in 1995. A lot of problems with this Diefdijk, a lot of water, as you can see. And now we come to today. And another artifact in the landscape, was this new Dutch waterline. This is a fence system which was based on inundation fields. And it was to protect, this is the western part of the Netherlands, and when the enemy came from this side, like Germany or France, we could protect the economic heartland of the Netherlands with inundation fields, with water. So we have this old dike for safety, but we also have this new this defense system. So how can we combine this system? So combine safety with cultural heritage. Again, explanation how this inundation was working. This is the western part of the Netherlands, and we knew that the enemy was coming. Then the country was put on the water with an inundation system, and it was 30 centimeters high. And where it was not possible to put the land on the water, we built fortresses. And that's the enemy is coming. And so we protected the western part of the Netherlands in the 19th century. Here you see an example of this inundation fields in practice in the Second World War, where the German army used the system against the English and Canadian army. So the goal of this project of this Diefdijk was, again, water safety, water climate for new uses, redevelopment of recreational networks, because this dike was also a cycle route, a walking route, a ski route, cultural heritage related issues, some old elements from the water defense line, and of course nature. And it is 30 kilometers of dikes. But the dike is a part of a larger regional plan, of course. So the whole plan was made with a regional approach. It's not only the dike, but also the surrounding areas. Here you can see in practice a draw of the dike. Of course, like a lot of presentations said before, with local people involved in the plans. And here you see a Diefdijk under construction. So again, this is the road. A lot of people used it before. I think here's Amsterdam, here is Paris. So it's the main infrastructure line. And the problem with the big rivers is coming from this side. So if we have problems with water, the water is coming this way. And that's why they built already for 1,000 years this dike. Here you see some photos in practice. And here you see a little bit the final result. Here you see the new sluices. And here you see the redeveloped dike. And some old elements were reconstructed, like this sluice is part. Here you see the new, how it looks new. We have a lot of casemates. We did some nice things with them. One of them we cut in 2 pieces, as you can see. And here's the opening up of the casemate, the inside. Here's some other parts of the system to control the water. And we developed that pieces as well with the project. Also, we use the part of the fields in front of the dike for water storage, the molenkaart, which you can see here. So the whole blue area was, this is part of the dike again, and we use this for water storage. Here you see how it works in practice. So it looks like a bit like the inundation fields. So again, the heritage. So again, conclusions about this project is a clever function of combinations, sustainable issues, ecology, landscape, water and water system, and making clear how how it is working in practice. Because I have only 1-2 minutes left, I will go very quick to the last pieces of slices. We use a lot of GIS information based on old maps. We have a lot of information from the past, and we're using that for new the GIS information, Geographical Information System information. We use that for users of today, so to control the water. So it's important to keep your old maps and your old data for infrastructure from the past. The one last important thing I want to show is this manual, because we think energy is a new subject which has to be discovered in combination with cultural heritage. And that's why my colleagues of the Cultural Heritage Agency made this information, this manual, which gives information about how to use energy in combination with cultural heritage. So a lot of leaflets are on the table outside, and maybe this is a subject for following conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Et nous allons passer à la Finlande. Je voudrais demander Tapio et aussi Madame Tikkanen et Madame Sismeri qui vont nous parler de leur projet.
Thank you, Anita and Anestis. Buenas tardes. I am Tapio Heikkilä from Ministry of Environment in Finland, and I am the famous TEyCI man from Finland, who I was presented by my colleague Carmen Caro. And I like TEyCIs. They are fantastic landscapes. Now I have learned something about TEyCIs. My first issue actually is I will give you best greetings from government of Finland, because Finland is now has the chairmanship for Council of Europe, and this was my official duty. Next thing is I must make some advertisement. You know that it's a European Landscape Award competition is in hard run now, and we in Finland we have a Kotka National Urban Park is our project. I left these kind of leaflets outside, you can pick them up. And Kotka National Urban Park is special because we have a special system to protect and conserve green areas in city infrastructure. Sweden has also the similar system, but not other countries of Europe. And the Kotka National Urban Park, it has also good, keen, intensive dimensions to water landscapes and underwater landscapes. And now I'm happy to present the Finland's presentation holders, Salla-Maria Tikkanen from, I must say, correct, Finnish Heritage Agency, and Laura Seesmeri from Turku University from Finland. And now we are diving underwater. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and dear colleagues. Yes, it is great to be here in Seville. Laura and I shall have now 4 theses, 5 cases, 18 slides, and 10 minutes. And now Laura shall start.
Yeah. Thesis number 1. There is landscape underwater. Underwater landscape is not experienced by everyone. It's not commonly thought as landscape, but the European Landscape Convention can also be applied to the environments and areas underwater. For the divers, there is a landscape under the surface to experience and to make emotional and embodiment connections to, and to appreciate it as an aesthetic environment. Underwater landscape can be seen as an area perceived by people. Its character is a result of the action and interaction of natural and human factors. We need to have cooperation to make people more aware of the underwater landscape.
On a global level, the Baltic Sea is always called the treasure trove of underwater cultural heritage. And on the shores of this huge underwater museum, the surface of the water or ice is not a border for a landscape for us. The Finnish Heritage Agency is the only managemental body in Finland responsible for the protection, safeguarding, and sustainable use of underwater cultural heritage. And it was actually already in the very beginning of 1990s when we started to pay attention to the idea of underwater landscape. Since then, we have promoted the idea of underwater landscape in the form of presentations, seminars, projects, underwater fieldwork, and different types of 3D visualizations. Suomenlinna UNESCO World Heritage Site was an obvious case for us to start the work. At Suomenlinna, there are several sunken wrecks and different types of underwater structures. And we were really keen on to see these sites as a hidden part of Suomenlinna's underwater landscape, not only as a separate archaeological sites. To locate these different types of underwater structures, we made an underwater survey in 2007 and 2012, and several new sites were found. And here we can see underwater and above-water landscape of Suomenlinna at the site of Gate of King Adolf Fredrik.
Thesis number 2. When we examine underwater landscape, we examine the continual interaction of nature and culture. Usually, we map and register underwater cultural heritage as dots, but when thought more widely, they are part of a landscape with cultural meanings and nature values. Understanding the underwater landscape gives a wider perspective to the connection between people and the sea, the confluence of the past and present, and the assessment of environmental changes and sustainable development by taking natural, cultural, and social aspects of landscape into account.
Case number 2. Virolahti stone quarries and Ruotsinsalmi sea battle area are examples how our agency aims to implement the landscape thinking in the management and heritage and in the management and protection of heritage sites on land or underwater. Virolahti stone quarry area belongs to a list of nationally significant built environments, and in September 2018 our agency conducted a survey in the area to locate previously unknown values. For example, several stone loading piers were found, and in addition, 9 wrecks still carrying the stone cargo were discovered. Ruotsinsalmi sea battle area consists of more than 60 shipwrecks from the first and also from the second sea battles of Ruotsinsalmi in the end of 18th century. The sea battle area, 26 square kilometers, is the largest underwater protection zone in Finland and also in the whole Baltic Sea region. The battle area has links also to the other historical listed sites nearby. These cases are examples of an holistic landscape thinking, not only with land-sea interaction, but also with land-sea below-water interaction elements and added values. And here we can see one of the wreck sites at the Ruotsinsalmi area.
Thesis number 3. Underwater landscape connects physical and imaginative environment, past and present, bodily and virtual experiences. Compared to landscapes on land, mindscapes and metaphors are strongly influencing the meanings of landscape in the underwater context and to the ways of perceiving and experiencing it. When asking Finnish divers about their definitions of underwater landscape and their experiences of it, many of them define underwater landscape by aesthetical and emotional definitions. Many divers describe underwater landscape as majestic, relaxing, quiet, and timeless. People who don't dive have also views or images of the underwater landscape. Underwater landscape for them is not only a place to visit, but it's a mindscape.
The Kronprins Gustav Adolf Underwater Park is an example of making an underwater site more accessible for the divers and for the non-divers. And the site is also an example of the in situ preservation principle recommended by the ICOMOS and also by the UNESCO 2001 Convention. Our agency opened the park in 2000, and it was the first underwater park in Finland and also in the whole Baltic Sea region. And the park was developed, built, and tested in cooperation with the local divers. And yes, we discussed about the idea of underwater landscape. Frau Maria is located in the Archipelago National Park in a Natura 2000 area within a year-round exclusion zone and recreational diving prohibition. The wreck has also a special protection zone based on the Antiquities Act. It lies at the depth of 40 meters in an underwater valley. And this all means that the site is not open for the general public. With Frau Maria, the main management option has always been to improve the accessibility of the site by other methods than raising the wreck or opening it for the general public and for the divers. Since the discovery of Frau Maria in 1990, the underwater landscape has been one of the leading themes in the management of the site. And here, the underwater valley of Frau Maria. This is a multi-beam sonar image.
Thesis 4. Underwater landscape is no one's home, but everyone's right. None of us has home underwater, but there are remarkable connections, meanings, opportunities, and marks of past in the landscape under the surface. And that is why we have to increase the awareness of underwater landscape. In Finland and at the agency, we have different data and register systems to work with cultural heritage. But how these systems take into account the underwater landscape that entails rights and responsibilities for everyone? Who owns the underwater landscape? How to work with landscape which does not care about the existing administrative borders. It has been said that we live the era of blue turn, or blue humanities, and blue history. But how do we as managers, users, researchers, and participants implement this blue moment underwater in the face of the many other global changes?
And now we ask you all to consider what could be your own underwater landscape. Perhaps it is just simmering out there somewhere under the surface of oceans, seas, lakes, and rivers. But there it is. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, and now we're going on with the next speakers. The speaker is about the underwater archaeological landscape in Croatia. Welcome, Mrs. Doris Kurtov.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. Let me first start with congratulating the organizer, the Spanish Ministry of Culture and Sport, and the Council of Europe and the municipality of Sevilla. Thank you. My name is Doris Kurtov, and I work in a public institution called International Center for Underwater Archaeology in Zadar. Well, in this presentation, I would like to, first of all, to present the center, the underwater culture heritage, a little bit of a legal framework, international legal framework creation case, and in situ presentation. Okay, let me start by saying that landscape is not an abstract notion or a theme, you would probably agree all. It is a space that we inherit, a space that is sensitive to our activities, and it is our duty to protect it, to take care of it for the future generation. Well, the richness of underwater culture heritage, Croatian underwater culture heritage, is attested to more than 600 Greco-Roman wrecks documented beneath Croatian waters. Archaeological sites in Croatia's shallow waters are mentioned in written sources from the 16th century. At the end of the 18th century, the first Roman shipwreck in Croatia was reported. Why was it so? Well, the Adriatic Sea was, in a way, in the intersection of the two main navigation routes, so the western and the eastern routes. But accidental discovery of the ancient bronze sculpture, Apoxiomenus, in 1996, actually brought a final decision to establish something that we have today, and we are proud of it, and that is the International Center for Underwater Archaeology. Here you see 3 small pictures. Well, it all started in 2007 when it was finally opened as a part of the Croatian Conservation Institute within the former St. Nicholas Church. Later on, there was an agreement signed between the UNESCO and the Croatian government, and it became a separate legal entity, and finally got a status of the Category 2 center. It is the only center in Croatia and in the region dealing with the underwater archaeology and conservation, but we are proud to say that it has a significant regional dimension with the emphasis on the countries of Central and Southeast Europe and the broader Mediterranean region. Our main mission is, of course, to present and popularize underwater heritage among the public at large and to promote the principles of UNESCO 2001 Convention. Well, ICWA, or International Center for Underwater Archaeology in Zadar, organizes all kinds of workshops for archaeologists, conservation specialists, nationally and internationally. As you may see below these small pictures, we have a laboratory for metal, for we own this former church of St. Nicholas Church, where we actually are organizing public events, concerts, seminars, and similar. Last year, we have become UNESCO Unity in Underwater Archaeology member. There were more than 28 different countries participating in our courses. Here are a few pictures of it. Why international law? Well, as you may agree, the first step in effective heritage protection is, of course, a legal protection. In 1978, the Council of Europe first recognized the importance of underwater cultural heritage. Later on, the recommendation resulted in something which we call the European Convention on the Protection of Underwater Heritage, which recognized I put it here, but I won't read it all, that all traces of human existence shall be considered as part of the underwater cultural heritage. Well, the most relevant international treaties today are United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which is a global treaty, but only marginally touches upon underwater cultural heritage. Today, more than 160 state parties are members. Then we have ICOMOS Charter on the Protection and Management of Underwater Cultural Heritage, which is not a binding international treaty. Then European Convention for the Protection of Archaeological Heritage. And finally, UNESCO Convention on the Protection of the Underwater Cultural Heritage, which was signed in 2001. It is considered as the first comprehensive international instrument dealing with underwater cultural heritage. In the heart of this convention is, of course, the protection of underwater cultural heritage, besides the public enjoyment and the fight against the illicit looting of underwater heritage. What I wanted to say that this convention was actually the only one, UNESCO convention, that it wasn't adopted unanimously, while it nevertheless entered into force in 2009, which means that this year we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of its entering into force. Why is it important? The 2001 convention, and I forgot to mention that Croatia was the third country to sign this important convention. It is important because of this in situ preservation. So in situ preservation will always be considered as the first option, unless there is a good reason to recover heritage, that is to say, to protection, research, or public education. The convention will only be effective if it is binding. I also wanted to mention the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Why? Because in the Sustainable Development Goal number 14, it mentions the sustainable use of the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. And it is important to notice, to mention that United Nations has proclaimed a decade of ocean science for sustainable development, 2021 to 2030. Finally, legal framework in Croatia. Well, the main legislation act is the Law on the Protection and Preservation of Cultural Goods from 1999. It is carried out through the Ministry of Culture and its network. We have 20 conservation departments and different institutions under the ministry umbrella, like archaeological museums, like University of Zadar, Croatian Conservation Institute. At the beginning, I mentioned that there are more than 600 sites that have been registered from all historical periods. We have 175 sites which are currently inscribed on the list of protected cultural heritage. Here you might see several pictures. I wanted to present the one which is called Condura Croatica. These are actually two Croatian warships dated from 9th to 12th century, discovered in a small city close to Zadar in a lagoon. They were excavated in 1960s, taken out of the sea. Then in 1960s, when the desalination conservation started. Today, they could be seen in one special pavilion in the Museum of Nin Antiquities. And there was a replica, as you may see on this picture. The replica was made, and it was placed in a lagoon of the city of Nin. These two small pictures on the right side are actually the wrecks. Unfortunately, Adriatic Sea is full of shipwrecks. These two I wanted to mention are the most famous one. The blue one is the famous Baron Gauch ship from the First World War. It belonged to Austrian Lloyd, but unfortunately in 1914 ran into a minefield and sank. The other one was the pride of the Austro-Hungarian Navy. It was called St. Istvan ship. Unfortunately, was hit by Italian torpedo boat and sank in a couple of minutes. These are the most attractive diving site in Croatia. They are full of them, but we don't have enough time to show all of this. Finally, why we call it underwater museums? Why in situ protection? That is what I was mentioning in the previous slides. Diving in the protected sites and areas is controlled by special regulations. This small picture will show you 8 ancient sites in Adriatic Sea which are preserved with special steel cages, the so-called underwater museums. Why steel cages? Well, they were put 10 years ago, but now it seems that several issues have been risen regarding their protection. As they represent an interesting temporary solution for the in situ presentation, but it has to be said that little attention has been paid to their management of public access or cage maintenance. So they need to take out, to be replaced, and all of this actually raises some issues like ecological issues, like aesthetic issues, like maintenance, like financial, and so on. Finally, how to improve the safeguarding of underwater cultural heritage? Well, first of all, by strengthening educational capacities in the field of the underwater cultural heritage, to increase allocation for underwater archaeological research. We need intergovernmental meetings, regional trainings, but the most important is that we have to change the public perception of underwater cultural heritage to make it better known and appreciated as what it is, and it is a unique legacy of humanity. And this is a picture of the city of Zadar, and our center is here. So this is the Church of St. Nicholas. As you can see, it's almost in the center of it. Finally, I would like to conclude and just to repeat what our colleague Magdalene said in her presentation. It was said very nicely that water is inexhaustible source of inspiration. I really agree. And this reminds me to something else. I wanted to say that we have to be solid like water. Sometimes we have to be liquid when it's needed, but in some cases, and sometimes we have to be energetic. Thank you so much for your attention.
Merci beaucoup. Et la dernière représentation qui vient de la Suède. Alors j'aimerais bien inviter Monsieur Glenn et Monsieur Hedlund.
So, a short talk from Sweden about the Water Framework Directive. That's an EU directive, and the conflicts due to the implementations, conflicts with cultural heritage. From my own point of view, I both like and dislike this Water Framework Directive. I certainly appreciate that the Framework Directive encourages a landscape perspective, since the directive works on a river basin catchment area level. And I also appreciate that the directive encourages the involvement of the public, of the users, of the NGOs, and so on. But the problem, I guess, and that we are experiencing in Sweden is that, of course, the Water Framework Directive singles out water management as a policy and operational area separated from other aspects of the landscape. So the Water Framework Directive, it was issued in 2000, the same year as the convention of the European Landscape Convention. However, the Framework Directive doesn't recognize this Landscape Convention, as some later directives actually do, some later directives from the European Union. And of course, every country that has to implement this directive are different. And in Sweden, we have not as much water as in the Netherlands maybe, but we have, I believe, like 96,000 lakes, and we have thousands of streams and rivers. So we have a lot of challenges concerning water management. The Water Framework Directive states that we should have good status for all waters. All waters is inland waters, some coastal waters, groundwaters, and so on. And we should have this by set deadlines. And we passed one of the deadlines, 2015. We are a bit behind in Sweden, and now we have to speeden up concerning measures to increase ecological capacity and chemical status for our waters. So we should have good status for all waters, no later than 2027. The Water Directive is about ecological capacity as well as chemical status. It works with, based upon a river basin management, and it sets quality standards for all waters. But there could also be exceptions, for instance, for heavily modified waters. And we believe that, and we have a lot of discussions in Sweden right now, how to classify heavily modified waters, for instance, due to cultural heritage. It's already said in the directive that the success of the directive relies on the close cooperation between different actors and the current actions. And this means that we have to involve even the public, the users, the landowners, and so on. As I said, the directive is based on a river basement, a catchment area management. It's not on sectors that uses water. It's on catchment areas. So we have here a kind of a landscape perspective that we have managed water management by landscape, not by administrative borders, or not by sector policy. And for Sweden, it means also that we have some collaborations with other countries, or neighboring countries like Norway and Finland. So water management organization in Sweden is based on these river basins or sea basins. So we have 5 regional water authorities that works with water management, and the 5 regional authorities, they are based on the main sea basins. We have 4 basins in the Baltic Sea and 1 basin in the North Sea. These 5 regional authorities, they have secretariats that provides with knowledge, environmental supervision, and so on, and there are a secretariat in each county in Sweden. What is quite interesting, how do we deal with this coherent action and cooperation? We have formed, I believe, 111 water councils in Sweden, each for the bigger catchment areas, the bigger river basins. And the water councils, their task is to find measures that can provide for ecological capacity and better chemical status in the rivers, in the inland waters. And represented in these water councils is both regional and local authorities, industrial companies, forest companies, farming organizations, environmental organizations, and other NGOs. And in this slide, you can see the 35 catchment areas that drains to the North Sea, and each of these 35 catchment areas has their own water council. So now we have had like 15 years of experience with a Framework Directive. It was formulated in 2000 and it was implemented in Sweden with beginning in 2004. And now we know that the challenges concerning water management is not so much about water quality. It's more about morphology and the artificial barriers that are created by historic use of waters. So we now know that there are many types of cultural heritage sites that, to a larger or smaller extent, will be affected by the action plans and the measures in the water management system in Sweden. And we also know that there can be damages to these cultural sites, and there could also be less damage with some special solutions, some technical solutions, for instance, for fish passages. But such solutions are costly, and there are lack of finance for measures. So it's not only small demarked heritage sites that are affected. Of course, it's larger scale areas and complex systems like industrial communities, river valleys, etc., that have multiple water use and also multiple water management measures. Also, of course, the agricultural landscape is affected by water management actions. This meandering of a former strait and river is a quite typical measure that is undertaken in many places in Sweden at the moment. As I said, morphology is the challenge in Swedish water management, and connectivity, that is how to get rid of the barriers created by the historic use of waters, is a main challenge. And there are different kind of measures that could be undertaken. Of course, as you can see to the left in the picture, demolition, deconstructions of barriers are often to be preferred because it's efficient, it's not that costly. New constructions, bypass streams, as you can see in the middle of the slide, are more costly and hard to get on the way. And also reconstructions that can be used in like urban areas or some heritage sites are also discussed and undertaken. And some of these are not that efficient concerning, for instance, fish passages. So,
thank you. I'm Leif Gehn, and as Anders just said, this is a very big landscape issue in Sweden. Actually, we have around 11,000 dams in Sweden with many barriers that need to be fixed. We also have around 2,200 hydropower plants, electrical hydropower plants, and most of them are considered to be too small to be really efficient, so around 2,000 of them will be abandoned. And there is a need for speed within the authorities. A good status should be in place no later than 2027. A lot of measures for connectivity will be made, and that will, of course, have a big impact on the cultural heritage. Maybe the most common scenario is that there will be destruction of heritage sites. And to prevent destruction, there is a need for additional costs. And the budget is primarily adapted for nature conservation, so there is no special budget for the heritage. And also the constructions for fish migrations, like fish ladders and so on, they are not always very efficient. So, as Anders said, the deconstruction and demolition of the heritage is preferred. And there is also an aspect that the historic use of small-scale water power will be wiped out. This is a use that has been since the medieval period for maybe 700 or 800 years. In some cases, there's no problem, like this picture from the city of Uppsala. There is a fish ladder that can be easily adapted to the environment because there is not such a big difference in altitude. Of course, this is noticed in the media. The conflicts are widely reflected in media. There are almost every day or every week there are articles in the newspapers about disasters and protests and changes and alterations in the plans and so on, but this is an ongoing conflict, one can say. So what has been done and what needs to be done? We need more cooperation in the national level between the agencies under the government. We also need more cooperation between the agencies on the regional and local level. And we need more knowledge and information about the heritage sites. We have a lack of knowledge, actually. We need methods and criteria for classification of water-related heritage and the classification of heavily modified waters, as Anders said, where there will be no measures. We need better systems for compensation for the additional costs for the heritage. And we need to provide guidelines for heritage assessment and better system for the environment impact assessment processes. But things are going on, and in this spring, a method for assessment of heritage due to the resilience to measures is implemented by the Swedish National Heritage Board, and that is where we work. So, thank you for your attention.